Thanks for tuning in to our latest episode of our Guinness Six Nations Tour. Please be aware that there may be some not suitable for work language used throughout this episode. Definitely not by Shanks and definitely not by me, though.
If there are any children who may be listening in, put on their favourite TV show with some headphones in, sit back, relax and enjoy.
Enjoy. Welcome back to the We Love Sport Guinness Six Nations Tour. We are Flats and Shanks, and joining us at our next stop at the famous Three Kings here in London is Paul Olima and Harlequins player and England international Dine. So what we're going to do, first of all, welcome everybody to the famous Three Kings. We Love Sport, thank you for having us. Guinness, thank you for having us. The idea tonight is to roughly talk for sort of 40 minutes or so about anything we want, but ideally touching a bit on rugby, a bit on the Six Nations. All of you guys will have questions building in your minds potentially, but we're not allow any of you to talk or engage with us at all for 40 minutes. You're very welcome, but you're not welcome to talk to us for the first 3/4 of an hour, but then we will have a break, after which we will be no holds barred. Shanks using awful, appalling language, Danny the same, Paul less so with gentlemen, he and I. And then you guys will be able to put your hands up and ask questions for half an hour, 40 minutes, absolutely whatever you want. We're lucky, Shanks and I are lucky to be joined by Paul Olima, who is many things to many people. He asked to be introduced as the Black Zeus, which I quite like. I love that. I'm thinking of taking it. I'll adapt it, but I'll take it. An incredibly sort of one of those guys that, you know, if you don't follow him on Instagram, you're one of the only ones. And I was looking forward to meeting him. Been following him for a long time, and been looking forward to meeting him, hoping he was about 5'3". Sadly, he's not, which is a bit annoying. Appears to be a really nice man, but Paul has dabbled in football, dabbled in rugby, dabbled in modelling, dabbled in being a bit annoyingly impressive, and now does all sorts of fun stuff, which we're going to talk to him about. Also has a big love of rugby and he's up to date with all the Six Nations stuff and all that. And Danny Kerr, 84 caps for England. I accidentally said 85 last week and it was really awkward. 80, I already knew. 84 caps for England. Realistic, we'll talk to you about this, Danny. You certainly won't look back on a career with 84 caps and think you should have had more, but there'll be a few people in this room that think you maybe should have had a few more, but there we go. You haven't, so get over it. You've still got 76 more than me, mate, so don't worry too much about it. Depends what you're willing to do to get to the top. But Danny is still going. Danny is still going with Quins. Still an option for England, still going with Quins, just signed another year. So we are in the presence of social media and social and human royalty and Six Nations royalty, because Shanks got 70 caps and won 2 Grand Slams, and I played 1 minute and 29 seconds against France in 2001.
Yeah, but you come into your own, don't you, come autumn internationals, because you've got you Fiji and America and Canada, they come to town, don't you? So, you know,
take the piss. I played
4 weeks of the year, you're in demand.
Yeah, but it's like the reality is you retire, and the thing is, Danny, when you retire, you won't need this to happen, but what does happen over time is you become more of a legend. So I am just ex-England international. No one knows I played a combined total of about half an hour.
Remember that time? Remember that time you stared down the hacker?
Yeah, remember that time. I was on stage with Dean. We're going to talk to you guys in a minute. You're the guest. I was doing corporate once at
Danny, should we just go?
Yeah. You guys, thanks for coming along. I was doing
the noise
corporate
down
at
a little
Twickenham.
bit. Yeah,
you were probably playing, Danny, and against New Zealand at Twickenham, whatever. And I was doing corporate, and I had Dean Richards, the old England number 8, and I was taking him around. In those days, you go room to room, tough gig actually. So you take Dino round, and Dino's a great bloke over a pint and all that stuff. On a stage, you don't quite know what you're going to get, and as we were walking along, I was asking him all his questions about famous, great memories playing against the All Blacks, and he said, "Did you ever play against them?" I said, "No, I didn't actually." Don't worry about it, it's fine. And you get to the stage, and he's like, "Let me ask you a question in front of 600 people in the Rose Room and Rose Suite," and he said, "Tell us your best stories, David, about playing against New Zealand, the All Blacks." Try to stitch me up. 20 minutes later, he wished he hadn't. I used all of his stories. No one had a fucking clue that I was lying. They thought I was a legend. No one knows, mate. No one knows. Anyway, right, who are you?
Right, Danny, how are you? How's the body?
Body's all right.
Yeah?
Body's all right, yeah.
The eye doesn't look like it's all right.
Was it Newcastle at the
Newcastle
weekend?
Friday night, yeah. We just scraped to win. Mike Brown's return to the club, which was nice to have him back. Joe Marler put it quite nicely. Mike Brown's got a bar at Harlequins, so it's great that he's got a bar. Obviously, Quinn's got rid of him, but he's got a bar.
Yeah, we're letting you go, but on the positive.
The Mike Brown graveyard.
I've got some good and bad news for you. We're letting you go, but we're naming a bar after you.
And we had our pre-match meal in there beforehand, before we walked over to the change rooms to get ready. And Joe Marler got everyone in the group. And it was kind of weird because you're in Mike Brown's bar and you're playing against him. I've played 350 times with him, never played against him. And Joe Marler's exact words were, "Fuck Mike Brown. Let's go ruin his night." And it kind of felt like you were shagging your mate's missus because you're in his bar. I mean, not that I've ever done that.
No, ask him. Next question for Shanks.
This guy probably has.
Next question.
But yeah, it was a bad one. But yeah, we got the job done and ruined his night. So it's great.
If you had to shag one of your mates, no.
Do you ever, when you're playing against someone like one of your mates, is it the same with you? Like you really want to hurt them more than anyone else?
I mean, I don't hurt anyone, if I'm honest.
Right,
but
well,
yeah, you want to beat him. You want to beat him. You know, I think I wanted him to have a good night, but I wanted him to lose. I didn't want him to play well and win. If he'd have won, I'd never heard the end of it. Yeah. So, I mean, he's playing for Newcastle, so he wasn't really going to win, was he?
I'll tell you a story about Mike Brown.
Oh, here we go.
Jesus Christ, let me tell you. I was driving, I used to live in Teddington, around there, and I was driving my car. And when you want to come out and there's another car in the way, so it's like a 50-50, like a standoff. And I was with Mike Brown. And I was in my car for around 20 minutes, he wouldn't move. So I had to reverse my car in the end to let him through, and he just fucking looking at me, I was like, "You fucking prick." 20 minutes I was there waiting for him, he's a bit of
He's stubborn.
He's stubborn as well.
I met him in Cardiff, and we were just having a chat by Westgate Street, which is the main road, by the Principality. It was the day before Wales v England, he wasn't playing. And he walks out into the road, and a white van comes along and hits him. I thought that could have been me. I could have been driving that van. But he was all right. Paul, what are you up to? What are you up to these days? What's taking your time up?
Oh, dressing in wigs and making videos. That's all I do all day. It's brilliant. What a job.
Yeah,
you've got some famous best mates. You've got a famous best, well, probably a few famous best mates, haven't you? Balotelli's one.
Jesus,
yeah,
no, he's a wonderful football player.
Misunderstood?
Massively. I feel people don't understand him at all. He gives half his wages to like the poor, and nobody will ever know that. Or if you go out somewhere, like let's say you go to a petrol station, he'll buy everyone's petrol. He's just an absolute. Like with money, he's great. He gives it, and he's a gentleman. But everyone always sees the bad side; they never see the good.
He's like, do you follow Shaquille O'Neal? Do you follow Shaq on Instagram? Shaq just wanders around buying people stuff, paying for everyone's dinner, and buying kids trainers, and saying to his kid like, "You've done well at school. Go and get whatever car you want." And he said he came back with a Tesla. I said, "No, get a proper car. I ain't buying you a Tesla. I'll get you a truck." So it's goes around making people's lives better. But are you? Is it right? Someone mentioned you've done body doubling for these people. Is that a thing?
Yeah. So one of my jobs a few years ago was to be a stand-in for big black athletes. So it was started off with Mario Balotelli, and then I got too big for him. So I went on to Usain Bolt, and then I was too big wide for him. So then I went on to Anthony Joshua. And then I stopped 2 years ago because I'm getting old now.
I was going to say you got too big for him.
Yeah.
I was like, calm down, mate.
No, he's a bit small for me.
Calm down, mate.
It's great job.
Who would you body double for? I reckon I could do like Max Brannan or something from EastEnders.
You could definitely do Max Brannan.
Who would yours be? Don't say Ronnie Corbett. That's out of order.
I used to get called Willow a lot. The little
Concentrate, Willow.
I used to get that a lot.
Man Mardigan.
Brad Pitt, someone like that. I don't know.
Yeah, somebody with great lid. It would be.
What are you, Phil Mitchell? Is that your
I'd like to think Grant. I'd like to think Grant.
Are you tall enough for Grant?
I'm taller than Grant. I had dinner with him. I had dinner with Grant. Well, not dinner with him. Sat at a table with him, and hope he's not watching this. But I doubt he is. He's busy with Gangs by Luton bus station or something. So he's the Luton Massive. They are a proper crew actually. So he. I sat with him at dinner, and
I shoot you with a BB gun.
I've seen it twice, and I'm not being horrible. But these are facts. I've seen it twice. I've been to a million events like we all have. And rugby seems to have a lot of dinners. Been to a lot of dinners, and I've seen 2 people clear their table, which is where basically everyone else goes off and just grabs their chair or grabs a chair at another table and basically doesn't come back. And the 2 people I've seen do it, you might want to put this in a video or not, are Grant Mitchell and Sam Allardyce. Cleared tables. It's just like, do you know what? I'm
What
out.
do you mean? Hold on, they picked their chair up and go somewhere
No,
else?
sorry. Everyone else went somewhere else.
Because they abused them or because they
No,
were...
it was
He
like...
hates Sam Allardyce though, because Sam Allardyce told him he created like fitness football.
No, I'll tell you about Sam
football.
Allardyce next, if you want.
We'll have
if
to
we've
go on
got
the
time.
Six Nations soon.
Six Nations, yeah. But Grant...
There's history here, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Someone else... They were talking about someone on stage, and I was sitting... I realised Grant Mitchell's got a real name, but I was sitting with Grant, and I was next to him, and...
Ross Kemp.
I said something like, I was ball boy once, when you played ball boy, and I said to him, I was ball boy and you play rugby, and I was playing for Bath then or whatever, and I said, I was a ball boy when you played in this game here, and do you remember sliding off the pitch, and your boot caught the ball boy, and he'd split my face, and I was only like 10 years old, and in the middle of a story, and I was talking to him, he literally did this, and just turned, and there was no one next to him, and he was just looking around the room for anyone more interesting to talk to. I mean, he had a point. Even if I was boring, I was like, shit, that's a rude bloke. That's really, really rude. And then someone on stage someone at the table mentioned so-and-so. Well, it's all right for him. He's a millionaire. And he's like, I'm a millionaire. Just straight away, kind of. And it went on from there. And it was like...
Sam Allardyce?
No, Grant Mitchell.
Okay.
Well, were you a ball boy for Grant Mitchell?
I was a ball boy for Grant Mitchell.
What fucking team was
What
that?
game
He was playing against Maidstone.
Was he playing against Coronation Street? Was
He was...
Big, big rivalry.
Yeah, but it was a big standoff. But Sam Allardyce told me and Lawrence Delalio and me that I brought fitness into football. Exact word, I invented fitness in football. So did you know that before Sam Allardyce became a football manager, a professional football manager, no one in football ran? Did you know that? They played knee football in the Premier League. They played knee football in the First Division until Sam came.
So 2 blokes you hate.
I donate him,
left the
Tom.
table.
I donate him. I don't want to have
Dislike
lunch with
him.
him.
Call him
again.
out.
Call him out on the camera, man.
Right.
Yeah, I'll fight you both.
All right.
Bring your stab vest, Mitchell. I know you got one.
Six Nations now. We get to it. We'll start with Italy. Could be here a while.
We're not starting at the bottom. It's just alphabetical.
Is it a wooden spoon game this weekend for them against Scotland, Danny?
Yeah.
You were thinking. I was thinking. Who are they playing? Scotland.
It's in Scotland. It's in Italy.
Yeah, no, it's what I've found great over the past couple of weeks is all the Scottish helmets have crawled back under their little rocks.
Yeah. Every year.
They won their one game. They beat England. Well done. And then now they went. They went and lost to. Did they lose to your mob? Yeah, they lost to Wales. Which
No, they haven't yet. That's the
Have they
last
not?
game. Lost
is
to
it?
Italy.
They lost to Wales.
They can play themselves. Lost to Ireland.
Lost
and
to-
England.
Lost to Ireland. They lost to
And
Wales.
France. And
Did they?
France.
They lost to Wales last week. Didn't
We literally sat and read
Lost to
through all
Wales
this an hour
last
ago, and it is all gone.
they? But Wales beat Scotland last
Who are
week.
you? Where are we?
Yes.
You were there.
Right, hold on. We'll start this again.
Are
Ready?
you Max Brannan from EastEnders?
Here we go. I thought we were talking about Italy then. Danny,
What's Anthony Joshua
Yeah.
doing? This is mad. This is mad.
Danny, we'll start with Italy. Wooden spoon game this weekend against Scotland.
Fucking give him the sack, the fuck.
Yes.
Thank you.
What's great to see is all
Great
those
answer.
Scottish helmets have crawled back under their little rock.
Yes, correct.
No, they came out again. They gave the large one. They beat England, and now they've done the classic Scotland thing. They raise it for one game, and they'll go. Are there any Scottish fans here? Okay.
Enough for a fight,
Do you
just
feel
one.
anything different than that?
But you beat England.
The Wales game is a wooden spoon game. Yeah, we'll get onto Scotland. Don't worry about them. But Danny, Italy, we don't need to have a 40-minute conversation on promotion relegation for the Six Nations. But is the fact that Italy have been there a long time and the fact that Rome is a really nice weekend away for fans, is that enough of a reason just to automatically leave them in the Six Nations forever? Because they haven't won a game now for 63 years.
Yeah, it's such a hard one because playing in the Six Nations, that trip it's a great trip.
So good, mate.
It's a great trip.
Yeah, so good.
I love the way you said playing in the Six Nations.
Yeah. I put it to both of you.
Yeah. 1 minute
Did we
20,
skip?
89 seconds.
I played about as the same amount, mate, to be honest. But it's a great trip. It's a guaranteed win. You probably score a try or two.
Lost twice to him, mate.
Have you?
Do you remember there was we had something like 10 seconds left, and Chris White said to Gareth Thomas, if he kicks the touch, there's enough time to blow up. There's enough time to take the line out. So we kicked the touch, and he went, game over.
Did he? Wow. Wow.
I love that.
But no, Italy. Is the time? I don't think the time is right to definitely not replace them with South Africa. For me, then that isn't the Six Nations. It's not what the Six Nations is all about. I do feel maybe another country should deserve an opportunity to. Georgia or someone like that to have some great funding put into their system to see how they could do, to see if they could potentially win a game, because you can't just have the Italy losing week in, week out. And they've had a lot of exposure, they've had a lot of money pumped into them, but they don't seem to be getting any better. So I'd like to see a game between them and a couple of others, or a tournament that they can play in. I
wonder what the youngsters coming through are like for Italy, because they did beat England 6-0, didn't they, in the under-20s?
Thriller, yeah.
I saw the result. I thought, wow.
Thriller in L'Aquila.
Italy have beaten England. Then I saw the score. I'm going to have to watch that. And I saw the score 6-0. I thought, well, no, I probably won't watch that. I'll just read up on it. But
it's an interesting one. But, Paul, from your point of view, I know you've played a lot of rugby in your time, but someone who's watched a lot of Six Nations over the years and enjoyed it, what do you think about the whole, people have talked about South Africa coming into the Six Nations and, a sort of Southern Hemisphere influence. Then people have said, why don't you include a Fiji, or so they're a bigger draw. And never mind what that might do to the Southern Hemisphere, like that takes South Africa out of the Southern Hemisphere competitions, which probably butchers them a little bit. But do you think there's more to it than just what money could we earn off tickets and broadcast? As a fan, do you think to yourself, that ruins the romance of it because South Africa ain't from around these parts?
Yeah, massively. When you think of South Africa, they're a Tri-Nations team. For me, my whole life, I'd be Tri-Nations, so I wouldn't want them to come into the Six Nations. When it was the Five Nations, it was great. If you are thinking of getting Italy out, it has to be Italy versus Georgia. As Danny said, I'd have a little competition where the teams that are underneath the top five go up against each other. Whoever wins that gets to play in the Six Nations, but I definitely wouldn't. You wouldn't take South Africa or any of them teams. That'd ruin my whole childhood, basically. You know what I mean? So you definitely wouldn't want that over there.
But if Italy played Georgia twice now, Italy would win those games. You'd imagine that the bookies would have them winning those reasonably comfortably at the moment. But the point is, Georgia would then have exposure and all that. And the thing with all Italy's games in the Six Nations, there's no jeopardy. Till 20 minutes, 30 minutes in, when the opposition has scored a couple of tries, the game is basically over. So you've got a sporting contest to a global audience with no jeopardy, no real risk to it. So at least if they've got a playoff with Georgia, maybe, and the first leg at least is worth a watch, right?
Would they not just make it the Five Nations? Is there a reason why, I'm not being rude or anything, but the Five Nations is what I grew up to, and you knew every game was going to be a fight, even when back in the day Ireland weren't doing the greatest, but I still knew that it'd be an absolute war. Or would they not just make it
at the start? Italy were quite good. They were really competitive, and for
Troncon, Dominguez, didn't they?
Some good old boys, and Cicero. That's some really good boys
in the centre.
Yeah, and Romania used to. They've gone down it. They were not a world force, but they could put up a good fight against some top teams. Italy were just the same, won a couple, but then they've lost 100 games in the Six Nations now. That's 5 games a year. That's quite a lot, isn't it? Well, it's 5 times 20 times 6. Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Anyway, right, we'll bring it on to last weekend. England-Wales. What did you make of England's performance? Did okay, did enough, really?
Yeah, I did. I think they did what they needed to do to win the game. I'll be honest, I was really disappointed in Wales first 50 minutes.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to be a great game. Wales just didn't seem to want to attack at all, didn't seem to want to take the game to England, almost waiting for England to make mistakes. And England just cruised really for that first 50. When Wales started playing, I thought, here we go, there's a game. Yeah. And they outscored England 3-1. I think if Wales had put anything into that first half, I think Wales win that game. I really do, because England, for me, at the moment, unfortunately, aren't creating enough. Unless Marcus Smith's got the ball, I don't see an awful lot of attacking.
Teammate. Oh.
Yeah, I made him. So
it's literally his dad.
Yeah, and I've got shares in his brand. So, but I don't see England creating an awful lot. I think I worry for England this weekend. I really do. I think if England play anything like they did against Wales, I think Ireland are going to have a good day, which is sad to hear. And I think the week after against France could be even worse. So England got a massive 2 weeks. I think Eddie Jones, has got a massive 2 weeks, because if they lose these next 2 games, I think there might be a few questions.
Do you feel England are a bit stiff now? Like let's say Furlong, I could see him doing a left-handed skip pass out to, like, I feel like they're dynamic, the Irish team are dynamic, but I feel like England are very stiff. I don't know what's happened, but without Marcus Smith there, I just feel like a centre is a centre. Nobody's actually doing both jobs, or do you know what I'm trying to say?
I think isn't it interesting that England are now, we're all talking, or you both are talking, and I assume you agree, I agree, England are now really quite reliant on a kid who has got a handful of caps. I mean, I've got more caps than him. Christ. I don't think I have. I don't think I have. But Marcus Smith he's only been there 5 minutes, and we're already thinking, if he doesn't play, we're knackered, aren't we?
Yeah, that's the scary thing. I mean, the kid's brilliant. He is, and he's only going to get better and better. But he's having to do a lot of it himself. And I think the whole Manu Tuilagi debate, unfortunately for England, they're almost like, if he doesn't play, like, well, what are we doing? And I think there's little rumours going around that Sam Simmons, you might see him in a back jersey.
I heard he was training at 12 this week. You hear that rumour?
Which could be a massive. If they go for that,
it's a disgrace. That's a disgrace on all England players.
It's ridiculous.
Like Mark Atkinson, who's like played really well for Gloucester, worked his way into the squad, and then we're not going to play you. We're going to play number 8 for Exeter.
But you sit in the arse on Sam Simmons. I don't want to tackle that, mate. It's like a big old keg on it. Sam Simmons, this whole hybrid thing, there's this weird thing. And again, we spoke to Brian O'Driscoll about this last week and said, surely England are just...
Oh, no, that's a player.
That's, yeah. Absolute baller. But about the Manu Tuilagi thing, and he said, look, I spoke to him and he said, look, I played against one of his first caps, whatever it was. I played against him for the last 10 minutes of a game when he came off the bench, maybe for his first cap or an early cap. And he said, he is unplayable. He's absolutely unplayable. And I remember thinking when I was on the field, one of the only times I thought it in my whole career, I got 500 caps, whatever it was, I'm thrilled this guy didn't start this game. I am thrilled because he's impossible to deal with. So, but England rely on him. He's box office, but he's hardly ever there. That's the problem, isn't it?
It's a hard. I don't know. I feel like England always try and play with more flair. They'll have a 12 that's a 10. Do you know what I mean? And like Owen Farrell, he's wonderful. Do you know what I mean? But him 12, that's fair enough. Tuilagi outside if you can, or somebody that can smash it. You said, was it Ben Teo? Was it?
Yeah.
Do you know, just somebody that can. But now you put 12, and then you have Slade 13. It's like everybody's just a flair player. Just no, you know what I mean? And I don't feel like it. I just feel like you're going to get smashed against the Irish.
It's almost like...
I'm just being dead honest, like, you know what I mean? You look at Pundiaki's going to run right through you. It's like,
Yeah, he's a handful. He's a handful. But you look at, the best teams in the world don't all have an absolute worldie at 12, but lots of them do. So you look at the world champions, South Africa, Dealonde, you look at the best, the current English champions down here, they got Esterhazy.
Harlequins have that. You have
Andre Esterhazy, Andre the Giants. But the All Blacks, when you say they're struggling, they've lost a couple of games, but they don't have a talisman at 12. They had Mar Nonu, they had Sonny Bill, they've had Walter, they've had Frank Bunce, they've had all amazing 12s. They got some wonderful players, but they don't have a beast you can build a team around at 12 at the moment, and they don't look the same team. So presumably, I don't know what you think, Danny, but what this whole hybrid 12 thing and a second 5/8, running a 10 at 12, do you like that, or do you think actually having a focal point, having played with Andre the Giant for a couple of years, actually having a big bruising focal point who can do extra bits as well changes the team?
Yeah, I think Manu Tuilagi for me, he's the most unique player I've ever played with. I remember seeing him as an 18-year-old and just seeing the power of him, the size of him. He dismantled New Zealand on his own back in 2012, I think it was, when we beat them at home. For me, England have only ever had 2 proper box office unique players. I think Jason Robinson's one. I think Manu Tuilagi's the second one. And you do wait for him. You wait till the last minute to see if Manu can play, because if he can play, he can do stuff that other people can only dream of doing. But you have to have a backup for him. So you're not going to get another Manu, but if he's going to be your battering ram, then you have a Mark Atkinson in the squad to say, well, if Manu doesn't play, you're going to do that job. And he won't do it like Manu can do it, but he will do a great job, get you over the gain line and give Marcus someone to offload the ball to run at someone like Bundiaki to then play out the back. But without Manu, it's a different story. If they play Simmons at 12, it could be a Bergamasco moment. Remember when Bergamasco played
Nine, didn't he?
It could be
The
awful.
Burgomaster. Do you everyone remember that when Italy picked Bergamasco?
What about Sam Burgess at 12 for the World Cup in 2015?
Winning till he went off.
That went well.
Winning till he went off, boy.
What do you think England make many changes? Or what changes do you think they'll make?
I think Sam Underhill might come back in. I think they might go with 2 fetchers in the back row because you have to slow down this Irish team somehow. So maybe they pick Underhill and Curry in the back row. Now Alex Dombrandt's got COVID at the moment. Touch wood, he'll be back for the game, but that might put Curry to 8, Underhill on the flank with Courtney Laws. So Dombrandt might go to the bench. But I think you put 2 fetchers there to slow them down because if Ireland get on a roll and you let them get a quick ball, I don't see England stopping them because that Irish pack and how dynamic they are. The Nine's playing with unbelievable tempo. I think it's going to be a tough day.
What about Ireland? Paul?
Yeah, I think Sexton's going to come back in. I hope he does because even when he came on, I know it was only Italy, but there's a difference between when Sexton's dragging people around the pitch and when Carberry is. So I think Sexton's going to come back in.
Mike Lowry, do you reckon he's got a chance or not?
He's a good player, you know what I mean? I just can't see England beating us. I don't mean it in no rude way, but I just think we're too dynamic. We're just the 9, the ball's up off the floor. It's like Danny in his prime, not now, but when Danny was in his prime anyway, you know, like the ball's just quick ball out to the 10, you know, and we're just moving around the corner. We have Henshaw, it's just too much for us. If you don't have somebody to stop us, like in the gain line, I
reckon the best combo is Bundyaki and Ringrose.
Yeah, Ringrose is outstanding.
Henshaw's massive work rate.
I love Henshaw.
And that's off the bench.
Yeah, I know.
We have him off the bench. You're screwed.
But I reckon Aki and Ringrose, the way they organise the attack off phase play as well, is brilliant. They attack with movement, they attack with numbers.
I think having Underhill back in is a good shout, Danny, because you think all those power runners. Like Josh van der Fleer for me is not a giant guy, but he's a power runner because he's just so hard. He's very, very powerful and he's quick. He runs clever lines and he's intimidating in a slightly less route one way in that he will embarrass you on international TV if you're not on it. But he's not necessarily a man stopper. He's just a brilliant attacking player. Whereas Sam Underhill would be Josh van der Fleer for me would be at the moment the best flanker in the Northern Hemisphere. And I think I include the French lads in that as well. He's that good. But he's certainly up there. But if you've got Sam Underhill, there aren't many better proper, bangers in the game. So
Sam and Curry, the two of them together, they're just different. The both of them together, I think they're amazing. So I don't know why they're not always. And they try and put Marrow into 6, and I'm like, well, fuck it, I've lived here long enough that I still want England to win sometimes. But it really
sounds like it, mate.
User are screwed. I do want it sometimes. Yeah. But then if you've got your, what you might do is because Big Courts has got to play, you put Courtney in second row maybe with Marrow, and then maybe you got Curry, Underhill, but the thing is, what you do need, it's not all about Ireland carrying the ball because you've got the ball for half the game. You need someone who can play a bit. So I think you probably put Courtney in because he has to play, and you leave Dombrandt at 8 and don't bench him because someone's got to cut lines and score tries and cause trouble.
Big decision at 9. Who would you go with? Would you go with Randall or would you go with Ben Youngs?
Or someone else.
Or someone else.
Well, you, obviously.
It would be the bit.
If I played, we'd win. We'd win it.
Obviously,
Obviously. I'd stick with Randall. I think England have to find the next 9. I think we do. I think if you're going to take your game to the next level, unfortunately, I don't think England will win a World Cup with Ben Youngs at scrum half, and that's not me saying it because I'm not in there anymore. But I think the game's moved on. I think we've got to play quicker. We've got to play faster. We've got to play with more tempo. The best teams in the world at the moment, France do it, and they've got the guy with the most tempo. Ireland are probably, I'm going to say, second at the moment. Again, their scrum half gets the ball in and away straight away. But at the moment, England's attack isn't letting Harry Randall run with the ball. We're not winning enough gain line, and there's not enough space for him to run. So people see Harry Randall get picked, they go on then, make some breaks.
Yeah, it's not how it works.
And it's not how it works. You need to be on the front foot. But also, I'd like to see Harry Randall with the licence to quick tap. He almost went a couple of times against Wales. He got pulled back once by the ref, but I want him in the ref's ear before the game saying, give me a mark because I'm going to go. I'm going to play with some tempo. Because the only way you're going to beat Ireland is by beating them at their own game, I think, which is by playing quicker than them.
You going in underdogs, do you think, this weekend?
I think it's mad to say England at home are underdogs, but I do see Ireland as favourites. And every now and then England will pull out an unbelievable performance, and we've been waiting it for a while.
It'll be France. You'll do against France.
Since the World
Ireland can win.
Since the World Cup semi-final, England I don't think have played that well. So there's a big performance coming, but I can't see it. I can't see it this weekend.
It's uncomfortable when you think England, with all the players and resource they have and all that, all the choice they have. It's like they're going to have to step up, whatever a couple of levels means, a couple of levels to win a game this weekend. Really, I mean, this is probably a bit unrealistic. England should never really have to step up a couple of levels to win anything. Whereas, because we've got the numbers. We've got 13 full-time elite pro clubs. We've got tons of players, more than anyone else. So it shouldn't really be like that. But then someone wrote a column. I think it was Stuart Barnes wrote a column, and he said...
He's still around, is he?
He's still around. I love Barnesy. I had a big problem with Barnes. Not a big problem, but basically, I grew up listening to Stuart Barnes commentate, and some players hated it when he was slagged them off or whatever it was. And I think, well, to his credit, he's got an opinion and he gives it, and he doesn't mind if you're offended by it. And I think there's always room for that. I like that. Very bright bloke. You don't have to agree with everything he says. But once we played against Leinster in the Aviva, and I came off and we'd lost like 47-5 or something, absolutely pumped, and we just got battered. And I came off and my phone was just like rammed with messages like, what is Barnesy's problem with you? What is his problem? And my dad's like, call me as soon as you can. And he's like, mate, Stuart Barnes has like 3 times in 10 minutes has said, what on earth is Flatman doing 3 times in 10 minutes? Just now got a skin. Drico skinned me, like, he's been about 8 metres in a 5-metre challenge. And my dad said, the thing is, mate, you spent the last 10 years saying he's the absolute Don. You can't say he's not now. I said, no, the problem is he's fucking right. But he said, England lose to Ireland, England lose to France, plausible set of results, could happen. Eddie Jones could potentially lose his job. Could that happen this far out from a World Cup?
If I was the powers that be at England, I'd roll the dice. I would. I would make a couple of changes because I can't see on this trajectory England winning the World Cup. Sorry to anyone who's listening to this, who's a diehard English fan. I don't know. Do you think England can win the World Cup the way they play? No, I don't. I think it needs a change. I think Eddie's been there for a long time, and I think maybe it's a couple of years.
Should Lancaster come back?
Well, do you know what? If I'd go and get Sean from France. I'd go and get Sean Edwards from France straight away. I'd have a look at Andy Farrell, bringing him back from Ireland. I'd get English.
He's not going anywhere.
I'd
He's with us now. He's Irish.
I'd go and get some English coaches doing the job and give them 18 months and say, go and win us a World Cup. The sad thing is, I'm hearing Warren Gatland's the one that they're going to go to for 18 months. He might be the one, which
sad thing.
I still don't think he's the answer. But I'd like to see
the Lions. He didn't give you the show for the Lions.
No, they were fucking. See how shit they were. As well. Yeah. So I'd go English. I'd go and
Yeah.
I'd go and get the boys back together and
Paul,
give them a go.
Have you met Sean Edwards?
I have. I've met Sean Edwards. Steve Collins, the boxer. Yeah. His son's one of my best mates. So, and Sean Edwards was his corner man as well. So I've met
That's right. Oh yeah.
Sean and Steve Collins.
Sean, yeah, wow. I know about them together.
Can you imagine them two doing a crossword?
There's 2 people.
I've never felt as safe in a boxing changing room in my life.
Imagine that. You want to come out on a night out with Steve Collins? You're all right, mate. I think I'll leave it.
Yeah, I love those two. I love Steve Collins. Yeah.
He's crazy. Like I think the hardest thing he had to do when he went to France was stop him from smoking and drinking a shitload of espressos. That was his hardest job, Sean Edwards.
Yeah, I think he actually legit said that. He said that all the lads smoke. The half that they're properly tabbing before games in the changing rooms, shower caps over the smoke alarms, just tabbing away.
He's a mental bloke, right? He used to go to bed after games. Like obviously, when you finish playing a game, you go back to the hotel. Sometimes it's quite difficult to sleep. He'd go to bed with 8 cans of Strongbow and 2 sleeping pills. And that would be it. See you, Sean. See you. No, that would be it. And he came down once, like he was in a daze. He came down in his pants and he was shadowboxing everyone. He's great. Honestly, we'll get into him a little bit later.
You'd get him back. You'd get him back. So, well, I mean, we might. I know we've got to move on, Tommy. Limited time, but Tommy always tries to keep to a schedule. I kind of ignore them. But England's next coach surely is Steve Borthwick. And surely, because he's arrived at Tigers, well, I know.
Did you play with him at Bath Flats?
I played with Borth, yeah. But no, but the whole point is, this is a guy who's spent years in the England setup, knows it as well as anyone other than Eddie Jones. Knows it well. Wait, give me that. Knows it well. Knows the setup well. You give me that. Oh, Danny, have that. Hands. And so he knows the rope and all that sort of stuff. And he's probably what you might call a safe pair of hands for England, because it's not bringing in somebody, you know, who's, I don't know, been in the wilderness, or it's not someone who, it's an English coach as well, which is always good for PR and all that. It's been a while and all that stuff. So it's one of those things that whatever we think of Eddie, whoever they bring in next, the media will miss Eddie because there's always something to talk about, won't they? And what do you think of Steve Borthwick as the next England coach?
Yeah, he ain't going to inspire an awful lot, I think. Just you'd have to get someone. You'd keep him away from every single interview because he ain't growing the game.
Do you not think you need a bit of youth? Sorry, like someone like Farrell. He's young. He's like, well, he's not young, but you know what I mean. He's like. Do you not think you need to get rid of the old guard and bring somebody that kind of is new to like not new, like your age, Flats? You know
I think like 32. Yeah, I think. Have you ever seen Andy Farrell? You ever seen him on a guitar after a game singing? And
no, I haven't.
Oh, no. Mate.
Like, you know, Owen's a good singer as well.
Is he?
No one will ever know that because he's obviously everyone thinks he's pretty quiet and shy, but Owen's a good singer. So
what's his song?
Oh, he's
is he like Oasis?
Yeah,
I'd imagine him
Oasis.
Yeah.
Smack My Bitch Up he did by the Prodigy.
Yeah.
The Prodigy, that was his debut song. He loved that.
I'll get knocked down.
No, he loves that. But Andy Farrell on a guitar after a couple of pints with a microphone is world class, like recording contract. And I often think, like, you know, you've got, is it Scott Robinson, the Crusaders, the Kiwi coach, who break dances whenever they win the trophy or whatever. I think if England made Andy Farrell, brought him in as head coach, whenever that happens, it won't happen for the World Cup, will it? If that ever happens, all you need to do is show a video of him doing that in a post-match function with the lads, and he will be a hero at least until the next World Cup. It's PR, and it's like this weird thing where head coaches seem to think their job is to annoy the media and annoy the public. It's like, you don't actually have to do that. You can engage and be fun, and people can disagree with you, and that's all right, and you can disagree with them, and that's all right. You don't actually have to be obnoxious. That's kind of my point, I think.
Okay. France, Wales in the Principality on Friday night, Paul. How do you see that one going?
I don't have faith in the Welsh. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not a...
Just be frank.
Yeah, I will.
I'll be Peggy.
I don't know. I was watching England. You know what I mean? I feel like you should have won that game against
more opportunities.
Yeah. When the Irish played, we absolutely bopped you. Like, that was the first game there. But so if I feel like Ireland and France are on the same level, kind of for me anyway. So I just don't think you don't have a chance. They're going to get bopped.
Too big, too powerful, Flats.
Yeah, I think the problem with the French, Tom, is that like the whole thing that when you commentate on games, it's really easy to accidentally just roll out. If you're talking for an hour and a half, you roll out the odd cliche, and you've got to try and avoid them, but they do just slip out. And the old, we don't know which French team's going to turn up, was basically ITV spoke to us all before the 2015 World Cup and said, don't say that, because not for any other reason other than we're bored of hearing it, and it's a boring cliche. And then France played, I think, New Zealand, or I can't remember what game it was, or Canada or something. I was commentating, probably the Canada one, and I was commentating, and I said it 3 times. I said it 3 times during the game, and my dad rang me and said, basically, mate, was that because I told him we weren't allowed to say it. It was at a drinking game, and I was like, my brother-in-law was on a stag do in Swansea, and they're watching the game, and he had to bolt a pint every time I said it. So I was like, I literally went again, and I told the ITV guys, look, I know what you said, but it was a stag do.
For a bigger cause.
I was a rookie, and they were like, I thought, am I going to get sacked? They were like, respect, like it. What did he have to do? He had necked a dirty pint. You're like, perfect. But the problem with the French is we now know what team is going to turn up. So we know.
But the pressure will be mounted now because they're the new team that can go for a Grand Slam, and they'll be thinking about it. They've 3 from 3. It will be in the back of their heads thinking, right, we get this one done.
It's England, isn't it? I feel like
got England at home.
They'll win this last game against England. That's the one.
If there's a game where they would implode,
it's this one.
It's Friday night.
Yeah, well, I think I cannot imagine. You look at the creative talent in the French team. It's everywhere. I mean, their Lucid is more creative than most of the players in the world at the moment. It's everywhere, and
Willemse,
so mate, Willemse is a modern day old school lock. Like, he's massive. He just runs around leathering people, but he's got a massive work rate, high skill level, low error count. His discipline's improved. This guy is the ultimate old school modern pro. Like, for me, he's close to a World 15 player at the moment, and no one ever mentions him. But you just did. Someone does. I can't see Wales creating more than France do, but almost like Wales have got to go out and think, well, we just have to be incredibly organised, tackle our teeth out, and try and pick up the odd penalty and kick them to death and maybe score.
I think they'll kick them to death.
What's happened to Wales? It's not so much of a different honestly, it's not so much of a different squad, is it?
A little bit. You're missing a lot of key personnel, and the players that we're missing we can't replace with like for like. I think Warren Gatland sort of knew that his time where he had these boys for sort of 10 years and could mould them was coming to an end because they were getting old. You know, like Alan Wynne-Jones, Ken Owens, Dan Bigger, Lee Halfpenny, all these players now coming towards the end. Doesn't mean it's the end of them, but you know, the players coming through aren't quite as strong as those. There's not as a massive strength and depth that we've got. And we seem to be lost of a way to play. Gatland played the same way as he's done all his life. You know, we saw it with the Lions, and Wales are still intent on that. There's opportunities for Wales, but either they're just communication or confidence, or they just don't see it, rugby intelligence, because it's on quite a few times, but they play so flat and they play to the line all the time. They play directly. And you can play directly if you've got massive ball carriers and a massive team, but when you haven't, you know, you've got to play a little bit wider. And their strength, I think, is the back three. You know, we got rid of probably our most exciting player at the moment. He's gone back to Gloucester because it doesn't suit the Welsh way, really, and he's not getting the ball in the right situation. So we're a little bit stuck on how we want to play. I think our most creative player, I don't know if you agree with me, Danny, or not, is Thomas Williams. He's the only genuine line breaker we got in that back division, 9, 10, 12, 13.
Yeah, I think you're missing a centre. I like to see Halaholo play. I think playing against him a couple of times, he's a stepper,
different,
he's a fender, he's different. And like I said, the last 30 minutes against England, for me, that should be your blueprint of how you play.
Yeah.
Get the ball to your speedsters, get Thomas Williams, get Kieran Hardy tapping the ball and playing quickly. I think the only chance Wales have got to beat France is by properly taking it to them. And I think people always say, oh, you know, France are this jouet team and they play from anywhere. But France kicked the most in the whole Six Nations. And normally the best teams in the leagues actually kick the most. Saracens, Leicester at the moment in the
Except
Premiership.
Quins.
But no, we're up there as well. We people don't think we do. But we've realised over the last few years that you have to. But if you kick well and then you do the other stuff very good when you get opportunities. So that's what France do. They'll kick well, wait for an opportunity, and then they're ruthless. And Wales have got to play the perfect game to have a chance at the weekend.
Is that a Harlequins thing? I played an A-League match once with Harlequins, and I remember we were in our 22, and you were doing tap and goes, and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Is that a thing where you were just taught to just run?
Yeah, I think that why I love the club is there isn't any rules really. It's almost, I mean, it's play or run. It's great. You do whatever the fuck you want, which is brilliant. But we've always said, play what you see, and if it's on, you go. That's what kind of the style we went for. But we definitely realise, even though we won the league last year, everyone said, oh, it's just they're playing from anywhere. We actually weren't. It's a bit of a myth. We kicked more than anyone else in the league last year, but we were ruthless on kick chase and on a turnover, and I think that's what France are unbelievable at. The amount of tries they score in the first 1 to 5 phases if the Welsh defence isn't up to it. Is it Friday night?
It's Friday night.
It's going to be a hell of a game. Be unbelievable, and it is the one that if France are to fuck it up, it'll be Friday night.
One. But I actually think there are some parallels between France and Quins as we got you here, because you know I don't know what your stats are, but France they kick more than anyone else in the Six Nations. They basically put the fewest phases together of all the 6 teams in their own halves. They don't play in their own half unless they absolutely have to, or there's no defence anywhere. Quins might do a bit more in their own half, but like Friday night against Newcastle, you were second in possession by a stretch, second in territory. I think they beat almost 3 times the number of defenders your guys beat. More line breaks than you guys. And actually, you won quite comfortably in the end. So it's almost like when you get a chance, you got a lot of talented players who are relaxed on the ball and you're really composed. France are almost the same. They're not actually a go-from-anywhere team. They've become, unfortunately for Wales and everyone else, quite a clever team.
Incredibly clever, and with that, you've got to have a pack. You've got a pack that wins you some penalties and gives you the field position. And some of those French guys, they're monsters. They're monsters. And then you've got the best 9 in the world fizzing around and playing the ball at a 1 second ruck speed, giving you guys the ball on the front foot. It's beautiful to watch. I think France are great for the game of rugby, great for the World Rugby game at the minute, because it had gone shit. It had gone shit. The Lions were shit. It was boring to watch. Whereas France have gone, now we're not like that. We're going to play quickly. We're going to play physically. We're going to play with unbelievable tempo, but with a steely edge that Sean, you'll know more than anyone. Sean's built this discipline. They've made them disciplined now. It's a scary thought. I don't see anyone.
They're not lazy, are they?
No, they're not lazy. They work hard for each other, and I don't see anyone. If France continue on this trajectory, I think by 2023 at a home World Cup, it's going to be a scary
You thought like
prospect.
Vakatawa, they're missing Vakatawa, who I thought was key to them. But then you look, they got Jonathan Dante, they've got
He might not get in the team.
Moafana.
Fiku.
Yeah, Fiku's playing there. You know, same at 15 as well. And back three, they've just got quality area. Right. Right, we'll go for Six Nations winner. Paul, who are you going to go with?
Ireland.
Okay.
I think England will beat France last day. Ireland going to win their match. Ireland win.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's Ireland Scotland, isn't it? Last game, big one. Danny, who are you going for?
I think France would win the Grand Slam, unfortunately.
Yeah. Flatsy.
I think France win the Grand Slam, fortunately.
When was the last time France won the Grand Slam?
2009, wasn't it?
10.
10.
Was it?
You said in the question over there
I don't
earlier.
know. I copied you. I was making it up. I don't know. I've got no idea.
Yeah, I'm going to go with France as well. So there you have it. We think France are going to win the
three of us do.
Nations. Well, 3v1. Overruled. Thank you for tuning in on our last stop on the We Love Sport Guinness Six Nations Tour. Thank you all for joining us or tuning in on this fantastic tour. Make sure to download the We Love Sport app to book your place to catch the final round of the Six Nations